So let's just begin at the beginning. You know, a child born into the holy days of Christmas, and I was Christmas Eve, given the name Celestine, the blue star, you know, so you're carrying this energy with you all your life. But I'm just going to, you know, start with just the near-death experience at the age of 6.
Mhm.
So I'm this year doing 67 years, you know, times around the sun.
Wow.
So when you start at 6, you know, and even through my birth, my guardians were people who held the arcane magic. My lineage is Egyptian, Nubian, and Native American, along with some of the European, Russian, and Norwegian. But having this foundation given to you as a child that you are from the star nations. So the Egyptians are from Sirius. They landed in the mountain of the moon and the Blue Nile. And the work that they did, even after the floods, you know, pre-flood and after the floods, was always a part of my heritage. Native American is the medicine wheel and council rooms and speaking into the spirit of the Star Nation. But we'll start at 6 at actually going out of body in a death experience through the light and going and being met by 2 illuminous blue beings who later I know them as Syrian light beings. And after the reading of the life, and believe me, it was very interesting. Every breath you take, every time you blink your eyes, every thought you have, double thought, triple thought, all gets registered and fed back. I then was taken into what I call the Godhead. So to have that substantial experience, it was my destiny to go through the mystery school, to go through the near-death experience and come out with the DNA fully open. It took everything I had to just maintain being in the world and not getting readouts on people or information. I literally had to kind of shut it down to be present. And we ended up 1 year later after this happened in the high countries of Alaska.
Do you want to tell us what caused that before you go into 1 year? I mean, if you're curious, if you care to share, but you don't have
I,
to.
I was living in a very dysfunctional, destructive environment, and my mother would take these sleeping pills. So I figured I better
Oh,
take a lot so I could sleep through. It was not a heavenly thing of, you know, putting yourself out of your body in death. It was, you know, I just needed
oh,
to release myself because you have the reverse consciousness, as the galactics call it, those who would harm, control, to they made it their life practice, and they were very masterful. I mean, you
mm,
have masters on this planet that go
right.
far beyond anybody could ever even imagine. They are in the highest level of our government, in kingdoms and queendoms, and I experienced that.
Mm,
Something like Laura Eisenhower, but
right.
through the arcane magic community that goes all through the world.
Mm,
And so at that time, I knew that I was not of that. I was of a different, and I just needed to sleep and not be taken into that place.
mm.
Um, Even if you went to sleep, they would come to your spirit out of body. And so there wasn't a place to be safe. So I said, this is it, you know?
And that blasted you into this other realm, really, right? It just,
Oh boy. I had so much power when I came back. I scared everyone.
wow.
But
So then a year later, you were going to say, after that experience, what happened a
yeah,
year later?
we ended up in New Mexico, Almagardo. And of course, I had no idea that the government was testing 10 atomic bombs at one time, and they ripped the sky. So
Mm,
people are, you know, kind of looking at they caused a lot of the dysfunctionality that we're experiencing right now. But if you look back to that time in which I witnessed the sky torn in two, black on one side, beautiful sky on the other, snowing, you know, on one side. I could walk on one side of my lawn. The line was right there. We could stand with snow on one side and clear sky on the other. The Native Americans, they began the ghost dance. I witnessed at that time huge, you know, starship saucer shape that would come and float slowly across the sky. That was my real contact with, you would say, the ETs, extraterrestrials. I had already been in contact with spirits on the other realms, elementals. I was wide open. So um, often they would travel, cars would stop, then they would leave and the cars would start up again on these little freeways in the 1950s, late 50s, 60s. So our guardians decided to follow one, and they followed one for about an hour into the country, and it landed and we all ended up in there. And there was the Greys, and they were actually monitoring us because we had broken open the field, and these electromagnetic filaments and things that connect Earth with the creation had been ripped apart. And so the thrill of that went out into the cosmos, and we had literally invited, you know, trouble to our door. They were monitoring us because after the World War II, they brought back chemicals. We were filled with DDT because we were children of the chemical age. So our brains were being morphed at that time, and we had cocaines and opiates in our cough syrup. But so let's go forward and acknowledge, you know, so that just to be Americans called the Star Nation.
But are you
And
saying your whole family got taken aboard the ship? I think you told
at
me
the
this.
same time, yes, at the same
Wow.
time.
That's
Yes,
amazing.
my brother still, he drew the pictures of their eyes and the ET, and he drew
Wow.
that for many years. He was traumatized. I just kind of was observant because I wanted to know what was going on. I couldn't believe it was a beautiful ship. I mean, I was in, somehow it triggered, you know, I mean, I had already had experience on the other side, so it wasn't unusual to see something of not a human shape and form. I mean, so my travels have been, I left, you know, the family. I was groomed to be a priestess at that time in their order. And at the age of 15, I stepped out and I went on my own search through Tibet, through Buddhism, India, you know, all the different traditions. And I got a doctorate in comparative religions. Okay. So, but within me was all the esoteric knowledges, sciences. I became an optician, a mother and an optician, and, you know, married, had that little trip. But my husband happened to be Special Forces, Alan. So I ended up
Wow.
Europe with a man who was like 007, you know, but he held high level security. So I would often cook dinner for, you know, OSI, overseas intelligence. And, you know, so the stories of nuclear weapons and high level security of Italy. And then he came back, we came back from Italy, and he was given the task of Edwards Air Force Base.
Right. Are
So
you going to tell that story of, if you want to, being led onto the base and seeing what he was dealing with?
well, we lived on Edwards Air Force Base. Edwards Air Force Base is like World Command. And so I was basically locked down as the female, you know, as the wife, didn't really go to many places. But the glory was he had such a high intelligence and a care for humanity. He would often our house was completely bugged. I mean, there was no conversations you could have around him without them being, you know, copied,
Right.
recorded. And
Right.
so he took me out to the field one day, and he said, "Here's a camera. Put it in my hand and have me take a picture of the space shuttle." They had been doing test flights for the space shuttle, and so you'll be able to listen more at Linda Moulton Howe. Took us 2 years to do a formal investigation. She did the interview along with Ian Howe, and we presented in the highest degree the knowledge that our government is in contract and agreement with off-planet intelligence.
Right. And
That,
your husband knew that and worked with that firsthand. So that this is
yes.
not secondhand knowledge. This is your
This is, he would come home and be so upset, and I would say, "What is it?" And he couldn't really say. And at first, it was just those reptilians, and I didn't know if that meant a lizard on the ground or what is he talking about? Did one of them get in his truck? But later I understood it was. I said, "Is it off planet?" And he said, "Yes, reptilians." So as he, took me into the facility, the underground facility, and also there was mind experimentation, and I believe I was taken out at times and placed. I have memories of being in the chair. Um, this base has a lot of depth to it, as well as being a place of protection. But I did go into the inner facility, and I did have a moment that will be with me forever, seeing a reptilian being. So that story again is with Linda Morton Howell. I'm letting her hold that story for me. It's a treasure. It's something that, Ernest Robert Hunt, he passed away, and we had talked about this. He could not bring it to you, humanity, but he actually wrote to the Pentagon and left the service because of this. He just he felt that we should all know about this. And so upon his death and afterwards, because we were actually threatened, my daughter and I, and I feel that all of these, politicians and senators and such, I feel that there is a level of threat to their lives to stay in line, and when they come to your house, some of the speakers even stepping out for me today, speakers, we take your chance, are they going to come and knock on your door? And I've had that, I have no fear because I am speaking truth, and it is not to shut it down, but rather to give the humanities the understanding that we are not alone, and that there is a relationship, not only personally for myself, but there are relationships with our world governments, more than one, and that the time has come to move forward with humanity. So my work and why I'm here is on behalf of the High Spiritual Council and the Galactic Star Federation. I have been in contact with them for, let's say, over around 40 years. And I have not come out and spoken before, because once you come out and speak, then the flashlight comes on you. And it's been so much more fun to be able to go into these interdimensional planes and experience what it is that is actually happening on the other side.
Right.
So what it is glory in the light of the radiant one. Start with that. This was the mantra they gave me, and the radiant one is God, is the creator. So the high commands and the Star Federations and the Galactic Star Federation, they all move with the radiant one. And I'm so humble with that.
So I just want to ask you a little bit about that. So after all that introduction to the star people, you realized who you were as part of the High Council, is that, and then some greater mind opened up in you. That's what I'm getting. And so you're able to bring through these messages. Is that what you're saying?
Well, Ernest, he left, we got out, he never got out, but he did write to the Pentagon, and he stepped out formally with an honorable discharge. And we ended up in Northern California, where my parents were the guardians. What was interesting was I needed to separate, because the cloak and dagger deception, all of that smoke and mirror stuff never really left, but it wasn't for me. I moved into optical, into quantum healing. I was doing neurosensory development, you know, laser light technologies through the eyes with Dr. Downing. I started my practice, and then I decided, I got the message to go to the high country, and so I moved up into the Lake County, and it was there that I really became awakened to a higher intelligence that actually lived near where I lived. I mean, I was called to the mountain, and I was either going to go to Europe, and my friend said, here, you know, drive up through Napa, you'll get Italy. And what it turned out to be, somebody said that was the treasure chest of Lumeria, and lo and behold, it's the stronghold. It's one of the places of the High Spiritual Council and the Galactic Star Federation. Just as Shasta is the Star Confederation, you have the Galactic Star Federation. And so there's these different levels, but what I was seeing, it took a while. I mean, I was up there 15 years. I became a yogini meditating in the forest. And as I raised my frequency, they became closer. As I recognized they were there, and I didn't freak out. I stayed, hello, my star family, and did prayers, and they could feel my heart. Then the immortals began to appear. They appeared, the first one was Ty Lee Po. He appeared to me, he morphed right into the field in front of me, and believe me, my body was trembling and shaking. This man was in front of me, what was happening? And he spoke to me for some time, and it was during this time that I began to open the Temple of Light. And so simultaneously, I'm at a place in my consciousness where they can come forward. And they know that I'm interfacing with humanity through the process. I later became clinically licensed as a hypnotherapist, an alchemical hypnotherapist in psychology, and working with mental health and the public health up in Lake County. And so we have this balance of working with people, and they said, would you become an ambassador?
Right.
And so I said, what does that look like? And so I started light group meeting. And it was simple as that. And what it was to have people come and share the truth like we're doing today. But we did it, we had to hide out. There was no, you know, just like Neil had his Facebook page taken down. We were up on my place, my little 5-acre walnut farm. And it was kind of a sealed job, you know. I had agents come, they came in, I had one that came in, and I said, oh, you have to walk with me. So by the time he finished, he had an alchemical process where he loved his mommy, and, you know, he did a whole process, and in the end he says, I will be your guardian no matter what.
Beautiful.
He helped.
What is one of the messages, though, that, I mean, you're here to initiate people and take them out and introduce them, but is there a message from the Light Council you can give us?
I would love to. I've been working with a commander. His name is Tanandor. And if you get the book, the Galactic Earth Council book, you'll see some of the writings from him and also from the High Spiritual Council. They want us to understand that we are going through, it's almost like the eye of the needle. I'll just kind of read over the latest. Okay?
Yeah, please, that's exciting.
This one has to do with the mirroring. It's called the mirroring. And it begins with, the era of deception is ending. And if you stand in front of a mirror and you look into the object of, you see yourself in the mirror, you're only looking at a reflection, but you are not the mirror. How do you see these objects? You have to turn, when you want to see yourself or be really with yourself, you have to turn away from the mirror. You have to look in the room. You have to use your senses and your eyes. You have to use your heart. And so he begins very gently. They're always very gently working, and So he says, you have to see with your eyes and hands and to understand that you are not the reflection. You have to go with the knowing of the heart and the senses, touch, smell, seeing. Slowly, clarity will come. Looking at the television, you're looking into an object, you're looking into reflections. And humanity has become dependent upon the reflections that they see. They call us the people of the mirror. As we gaze into places, then our outer lives become hidden to us. We no longer see our outer lives until we step away and we move back into the heart. When you are away from the mirror, then your true being comes forth. The brain synapses and the heart registers the difference. 1111, at 1111 time and space on 2020 will become a pivotal point for humanity. And he kind of gives a warning that it is a good day to leave all communication devices and television services, anything that is of reflective nature or machinery, and to stand away from it and stand in the oneness of yourself.
Wait, do they mean November 11th, 2020 is the day that they're talking?
It's the day at 1111.
At 1111, no matter where you are, put down the reflection and just be with yourself.
So you see the backdrop, 11, 11, 11. So he calls it the mirroring. So you have a choice, right? Okay. So he says, allow the sun to shine upon the self and awakening the purest state of the self. So he says, well, this is not to say that you don't have to, right? He doesn't want to say you must do this. You know, if you have to have directional or communications, yes, but, you know, it's a moment. It's a pause so that the heart of the self can be felt and seen. And they call it, I'm sorry?
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I'll ask you something after. They call it what?
They call it the shifting from reflection to the holy self. And this is a choice. Shifting from the reflection to the holy choice. And this is only one level. I mean, he goes on. I just
want to say, Celestine, what I get is if we can do that, step away from these artificial reflections, there feels like there'll be an energy that will be coming in to the earth.
You got it.
We can absorb, right? Yes.
You got it. You got it. So, whoo, bingo. So I believe they've set it up so that there's going to be a grand initiation on that moment. But he takes us further into ourselves, okay? So once you come out and you're in yourself, you're in your embodiment, you're in the first level of you haven't hit the center core. You're just centered in this moment. And so then you go beyond this and you're in a state beyond, there is a part of you that is moving these arms and legs, right? So I don't have that to share in completeness because time did not permit. But let me see if I can finish this up well. Finding the central place of your being is finding the central place of your whole life. Your central place, the core, is around which your life rotates. And once they set us up to connect with the central core, it's going to elevate us even further. You remember, they didn't appear to me until I was at a certain frequency. Now, we've lost the third dimension. We know this with the scalar wave technology. We know there's holes in the magnetic field. We know we're getting the gamma. We have now raise the frequency around us, because Earth is moving into a new sector of time and space that allows for the interface between the ultra-terrestrial extraterrestrials that we know as our star kin. This interface is close. It's very close. More sightings. They no longer have to cloak anymore. They no longer have to cloak themselves.
You're absolutely right. Worldwide sightings are up over 200%. That's what I mean.
That's right. So we are moving towards that moment. And after, what I'm told is that from 11/11/2020, from that pivotal point, the two timelines that we've been writing on, one with the COVID and the 60 years of aggressive reverse consciousness that we've been putting up with our fellow Earthians, they see us as one tone, okay? And then the other half is going towards Ascension. I say, you know, the one timeline is driving over the cliff, you know, so you know, this is the end of the world, you know, nothing can happen, we're all gonna die. And then the other one is, you know, here we are in Ascension. And so what they said is the tally has been taken. So from the beginning of the year till now, everyone has been put to themselves. They must make a decision. Are they in it for the involvement of the mind and the species? Are they at one with the species? Or do they feel that there's more time needed to live in the reversed scenario?
Well, we have a question on the chat that says, should we just be patient if our mission is not yet clear? But I think you're saying, if you're here and listening,
if you're here, you are a part of the change. And just if you are awakening, just your emanation, because you're more than likely a very beautiful and pure of heart. And just that emanation is enough. You know, it's important. It's so important, because wherever, if you feel around you, more than likely, you've got a lot of people walking in fear. One of the pieces I can give you is I work with people to discover why they came to Earth. It's called a Galactic Origins, and it is very profound, because you have a detailed understanding of where did you come from? What did you look like? What were you with a grouping? Did you come by yourself? Were you a leader? Were you a researcher? Are you coming for resources? Did you come in a Stargate? You know, how did you get here? And so by opening up the field for that, you understand your contracts and agreements, and then we take you back from whence you came. And it's really beautiful that people are just awakening on so many levels, and then from where they come, we reintegrate you back on Earth to your present time. And it's just phenomenal that people have that awakening. If you don't know what your purpose is, you can get this process. It's called the Galactic Origin Session, and that will, without a doubt, I'm working with people from airlines, I'm working with people that are just newbies waking up, and it's very detailed, so it gives you a lot. It's an encoded transmission. So back.
Oh, go ahead. No, keep going. Go ahead.
You have two timelines, and the tally has been made.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
That means every heart has been counted in our species. So the movement of going into galactic consciousness is to recognize we are a species among others. We represent Earth. We are in the signature form of Earth, and we resonate a tone in the whole of the Milky Way, the Sheshata, they call it Sheshata. So our hearts have been tallied, and the fall equinox was the end of the tally. So now we know, the creation knows how many of how many is moving, what's moving towards, and Tanador said we could go into one more phase of violence. This is how important we are today. And these people here, you, Alan, you know, Michelle, Neil, all of us are holding the space for the next birthing. And we may move through one more phase of violence, or we can transcend. Now, imagine the surrendering, the opening the way to tenderly allow our cousins, our relations to come forward. They are holding tachyon energy information on how to use tachyon energy for communication. We do not need microwave that destroys the plants, the animals, the bees, everything, the weaponry, the violence, the cancer, the pharmaceuticals. They've had their time, they've made enough money, they've got it stashed away, whatever. This is our time to open to the field. I've been across the field. I'm coming back to tell you, right, Alan? I'm, you know, it's like they can move us into anti-gravity in a second. We have fleets. We have means of desalination and pure water. So this is the thing. So I'm to place on your plate little candy treats that there is a way of being that is our AI is out of control. Just what happened today with Neil, that may have been a trigger by one of the Robotian analytical parts of their system that did an automatic shutdown, because their automation of their systems, I've been told, are out of control. They are not in control of the system.
Well,
and that is
now we're shifting. Well, you're saying that if we could just make it through this birth canal that we're going through, and we welcome the galactics that are waiting for us,
yes,
we could really move into a paradise with great technology to support an abundant planet.
Absolutely. It's their planet too. They've been doing this inadvertently through the minds of Tesla, through the mind, you know, Tesla had the visions and then he would work out the plans. The same with Einstein. You know, they have been, when I was in Middletown, and I connected with the Star Cross community, which was a government person who had connection with Ashtar Command, and he started the Star Cross community. So they came into my light group meeting, and they spoke often. One of the gentlemen, these were very straight people, very, you know, Elmer Fudd, and the gentleman was trained how to make a turbine because the geysers up there are tapping into the mana, you know, earthquakes and all this. So literally, Anne and her husband was in charge of the building of the geysers up there, and a star being would appear in light and speak with him every night almost. You see, I think that the same thing happened in New Mexico. I feel that they were totally in contact in New Mexico because of the atomic bomb blessing. And my brother, who worked at, you know, weaponry control, he wrote one of the programs that allowed all the military to understand where all the weapons were in the whole world. Wow. And what he said was there was a time when an atomic, they would just come over and hover and they would shut everything down. They would just shut up anything electrical. Guns wouldn't work, cars wouldn't move, and they do this for a day or two.
Right, especially the nuclear warheads. We have about 3 minutes, and Tatiana asks, is there anything we can do to help make a shift?
Envision, use your inner mind to see the timeline. See us already past, see new world leaders who can handle the awakened consciousness, who can be representatives of the interfacing between the higher intelligence and our species. See it happening in a very high and loving way. See your life. recognize, stay in your lane and envision good and miraculous things for yourself and your family. The universe is listening, and it rearranges itself to accommodate your reality. So if everyone just takes a moment and just sees the glory of this planet, see the children playing with beautiful clean water, and the dolphins and the fish in abundance, and holds that timeline that these reverse conscious ones have to step down. It's done. So that's what I would say. Use your vision, use your heart, and know that it will happen, and it will.
You have so much information. I mean, you could really give many hours of dissertation because there's so much you've encoded within your consciousness to share. So I appreciate everything you brought here. And I think people are saying, how do they go out and see the starships at night? Can you talk a little bit about your work from here and how to...
Well, 11/11 is going to be a good night to go out, whether you have to put on your bunny outfit or not. We have the Galactic Earth Council. We've been meeting for 10 years. We've had 10 years of communications and direct contact with the Galactic Star Federation and the High Councils, the High Spiritual Council. So 11/11, you want to go out and really have a focus. I give you those two. First, a prayer. Go out as a ceremonial prayer for the self to meet them. I give you the High Spiritual Council and the Galactic Star Federation. If you want to go Star Confederation, you're going with beings who can come and go from different galaxies, and that is just as well. But you want to ask the Radiant One. The mantra is glory in the light of the Radiant One. And that enables them to begin to communicate with you. If they come out in the daytime. They come out, they'll begin to work with your synapses. Just because you go out there doesn't mean you'll see them, because sometimes the brain synapses has to be rewired. They can do things like place 100 dragonflies around you, or make a sunset so beautiful you are in awe. It will stop traffic, And
Wow.
so those are because there's not a difference between nature and the illumination of these beings. There's no difference, okay? So they are nature beings, we are nature beings. So they never lost that innocence like we have. So I would say go out, be in nature, and then wait. As the dusk falls, maybe you see something that looks like a plane, but watch carefully. Maybe the wings will go off. I would say maybe it will go into 2 planes, 4 planes, and come back together. They will show you holograms. Wow. Wait for your synapses. If you see them and you say, glory in the light of the Radiant One, they'll begin signaling you.
I also want to say, right, you're giving a workshop for Portal to Ascension on Ultraterrestrials Humanity coming up. So look out Portal to Ascension. Is there any final words for this session? Because I know there's so much more.
There's so much more. You can look us up at galacticearthcouncil.com. Trust in yourself and just know that you are loved beyond love. And the glory of what is coming is so good.